daily. So taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. Okay. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that knows no suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of attachment and hatred for those held close and distant. Okay, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings, well, actually, free from the closeness of attachment and the distance of hatred, may they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So we're going to pause here. This is actually the long version of the same prayer that we just said. So this is actually in some ways, the most important of the 4 verses. So we'll take a minute and, as it says here, meditate briefly on Tonglen, focusing on taking on all the disturbing thoughts, all the negative emotions, all the anger and hatred, all of the attachment, all of the ignorance, jealousy, greed, miserliness, all of that stuff. And we'll take all of that from all sentient beings, thinking of people that are in your lives right now, specific individuals, people who you feel aversion, who you feel hostile towards, people who you feel great closeness towards, taking on all their suffering. Using that as a method to overcome our own self-cherishing, that big me, myself, my mentality, and then sending out all of our love, all of our compassion, all our wisdom, all our stability of mind, all of our positive qualities, all of our virtue then is sent out in the form of white light to each of these living beings. And we'll continue. The seven limb prayer. There you go. I prostrate reverently with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for transmigratory beings. I dedicate my own and others' virtues to the great enlightenment. Mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryataya. So we can, I guess, stop at this point, and then at the end of the session, we'll do the dedication prayers. So Buddhism is really quite something. So I just was thinking about this by way of, setting our motivation and kind of getting into the whole Buddhism perspective on life kind of thing. So this is sort of a train of thought that I would have given had I been doing the Buddhism in a nutshell course that I usually give. But I think it really comes into play. I mean, it's just so important to keep this in mind as we engage in our studies of Buddhism, as we practice Buddhism, is just to remember just how radically different Buddhism really is. It's like a big slap in the face. It's such a shift in the way we normally think of ordinary experience and the meaning meaning of our lives, the intention. All of that is just so different when you think of things from the Buddhist perspective, right? So this, and we'll be focusing on this idea a lot today, which is that life is just like a dream, right? Life as a dream, the dream-like quality of our experience, from our waking experience to our sleeping experience to our time of death experience, the Bardo state, all of that, thinking of it as a dream is so very important. So we'll be going into more details to what that means, today. But just the idea that, we're going to die and then we're going to go through this intermediate state and then we're going to be reborn, right? That's like, wow, such a different way of thinking of our experience. Thinking of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that there are all these different realms of experience, realms of different kinds of rebirths that we can and have actually taken since beginningless time, right? Again, that's something so radically different from the way we normally think. The fact that there are, infinite other sentient beings, it's hard enough to even imagine how many human beings are on the earth right now. But then, you think of, okay, living beings and all the living beings that have gone extinct recently, due to progress. And then when we start thinking about emptiness, right, that lack of inherent existence, talking about the cultivation of wisdom and different capacities, different abilities, different potentialities of our mind, right? That's just unbelievable. Like all of a sudden we're not restricted and confined to this very limited, way of thinking and operating and making it to the end of the day, right? Instead, we have this tremendous potential that we didn't, even recognize that we have to escape suffering, that's not the result of, like external things happening. It's the result of, the causes and conditions that we have accumulated as a result of our decisions, our choices, right? So we have the power to change, our ordinary experience, to transcend the suffering the big mess that we've created for ourselves, and instead to slowly, make progress on the step to the state of awakening. And again, not just for ourselves, but for all these infinite sentient beings are all around us, right? All the different realms of experience, right? So it's not just the human beings, the animals, but the hungry ghosts, the hell beings, the gods, the demigods, right? Really, really mind expanding. So it's good to just remind ourselves of that. Just, like the basics, the basics. So remember that the Buddhist worldview is revolutionary, right? Just remember that. So one of the core concepts then is this idea of merit, right? Merit and virtue. We always hear about how important it is to accumulate merit, to engage in virtuous activities so that we're creating the causes that will enable us to transcend samsara, right? To break free. Well, how do you do that? Well, you need to create merit and virtue. So, so I wanted to just touch on that briefly because, sometimes you think, well, okay, all right, I've got to accumulate merit. I have to accumulate virtue. What exactly is that, right? What does that really mean? What is merit? What is virtue? And so we know that in general, we can think of virtuous actions as being the opposite of non-virtuous actions, right? And so we've heard in the teachings on karma, we talk all about the 10 non-virtuous actions. And so what are the virtuous actions? Sometimes we don't think of the virtuous actions as the opposite of the non-virtuous actions. So let's just go through those quickly. So when we think of the 10 virtuous actions, those would be the 3 good actions of the body, right? So not destroying life, right? In other words, not killing, not destroying life. So when you think of it as a virtuous action, it's a restraint, it's a refraining, it's a conscious, it's not just like unconsciously refraining, it's a conscious decision to refrain from engaging in destructive, harmful actions, right? So not destroying life. You can think of it as a pledge. I'm not going to destroy life today. I'm not going to take what has not been given, right? So I'm not going to steal. I'm going to refrain from improper sexual practices, so sexual misconduct. And then for the good actions of speech, I'm going to make sure today that I'm not going to tell lies. Right? Even if I have a chance to tell the best lie ever, and it's so tempting, I'm not going to tell a lie. I'm not going to yell at somebody and use abusive language, even though it's very tempting. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to badmouth my coworker or my family member behind their back. I'm not going to indulge in meaningless gossip, irrelevant talk, and I think that in the 21st century these days, that includes like not, posting silly comments on social media and getting, wrapped up in that kind of trip. And then very, very, very important in terms of the mind. Right? So not being covetous, right? Not wanting what somebody else has or wanting more of what you do have. It's not being malicious, full of evil thoughts, spiteful thoughts. I'm going to get you, that kind of thought. and not holding wrong view, destructive beliefs, right? Not disregarding the Buddha's words or saying the Buddha's teachings are meaningless. So I know we talk about this in almost every class, but I really think it's so important to keep these in mind as we go through our day, because it's so easy for us to engage in negative actions. So it's good to think of it from the opposite. So that's gewa in Tibetan. So virtuous is would then be engaging in the virtuous actions. And then, so let's go back to this idea of what's the difference between gewa, virtue, and then merit. So merit in Tibetan is mostly used. They use the word sonam, right? Sonam. Sometimes penyun. Penyun is more like benefit. So it's hard to get a good exact English translation for many Tibetan words. But so sonam is more like the results of virtue or the virtuous activity itself. Other times it's used synonymously with virtue. So it's a little hard to differentiate. But we said so you might say the 10 virtuous actions. You could also say like the 10 meritorious actions, I guess. But mostly it's the 10 virtuous actions, right? So it's the wholesome tendencies imprinted in the mind as a result of positive and skillful thoughts, words, and actions, right? We could say, oh, I accumulated merit. And so that merit is like an energy or potentiality that ripens in the experience of happiness and well-being. So I've got accumulated this merit on my mental continuum, on my mind stream, right? And so in the Mahayana tradition, then it's important to dedicate the merit of one's wholesome actions to the benefit of all sentient beings, ensuring that others also experience the results generated by the positive actions. That's the definition from the 84,000, translating the words of the Buddha, 84,000. That's the definition of merit. So it's dedicating the merit of one's wholesome actions for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then another way of thinking about merit in particular, this is from the Alexander Berzin dictionary. It's the type of karmic force associated with a constructive action, which ripens intermittently into transitory happiness. So that's interesting because he's emphasizing this idea of merit being like having a karmic force to it, right? So you've accumulated merit. That merit then has, this karmic potentiality associated with it. If you think of it as, so it's merit meaning a positive force, right? And it will eventually ripen into some kind of happiness. So I thought that was really cool. Many translations. Okay. So anyway. So then another couple of just random ideas to follow up on previous discussions that we've been having is going back to this idea of how we relate to a spiritual teacher, right? And we had talked about how there are different types of spiritual teachers, or almost like different levels of spiritual teachers, and how they're like ordinary teachers, like somebody such as myself. So you could come to a Dharma class and not see the person as, a teacher with a capital T, right? So I'm like more like an instructor or a facilitator, on and on up to somebody who you take refuge vows from or tantric vows from. And in the tantric sense, then when we talk about seeing your teacher as a guru, right, as the Buddha, the guru as a Buddha, then that's really a very special, highly it's for more advanced, tantric practitioners, really. So there's a lot of kind of confusion and misunderstanding associated with that. So let's put that aside. But just in general, when we talk about our relationship with a spiritual teacher, then there's this sense of joyful effort, right? When joyful effort really comes into play here, where you are inspired to always be with the teacher with a capital T, never getting tired of the Dharma, always wishing to meet the teacher, always wishing to serve the teacher. There is sort of this insatiable sense of, wanting to learn the Dharma, right? That's what we're doing. And how do you learn the Dharma? Well, from your teacher. So you wish to receive personal instructions. You wish to make sure that you're practicing and that you're understanding correctly. No matter how learned you are, no matter how many times you've met, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you're not just going for a photo op, right? You're building that connection, you're strengthening that connection, you're creating that merit, right? And you're offering service. So it's all about, how can I serve the teacher? How can I, do everything I can to be of benefit, right, to the teacher? It's not what can I obtain from the teacher? What can I get from the teacher, right? Does that make sense? So I think that's good to keep in mind, right? We may, we might think that, oh, well, I have only met this teacher once in my whole life. I only had a chance to meet this wonderful teacher once, but I still, based on that connection, it was so strong. So the number of times that you actually meet the teacher really is irrelevant. It's the quality of the relationship. And then for teachers who have passed away, so many of our teachers have passed away at this point, right? Then we can still think that they're out there somewhere, that we're still receiving guidance from them. And then if their tulku, if their reincarnation is found, then again we can we can forge that relationship, right? We can make an effort to go and meet the tulku, even if it's very small. He or she is very small right now, right? Then you can go and make offerings and get to know them. But definitely just thinking that, somewhere your teacher is somewhere out there in some Buddha land, and his or her own, Buddha land, you can continue to make offerings and keep his presence in your mind, right? And then just one last random thought here is that a good teacher, even in a secular way, is somebody, or like a parent, a good teacher is somebody who points out your weaknesses and corrects your mistakes, right? So you can improve, right? Sometimes that can be hurt your ego or something, but it's what we need, right? We need somebody to point out things that we're doing wrong. So that's a good teacher, right? You don't want to go to a teacher who's like, yeah, great, you're doing great. And then you're like, you make the same mistake over and over again. That's actually not that helpful, right? Okay, so here's some more advice. Many of us are attending classes online. So what's online etiquette for Dharma classes, right? So if it's just a regular secular Zoom meeting, then obviously you're going to log in, a few minutes ahead of time and get settled and get into the, right frame of mind. Even more true for Dharma classes, right? And so Venerable Steve Carlier, I'm mispronouncing his name, which is ridiculous. But he's based at the Land of Medicine Buddha out in California. And so I remember he said this at one point before a class. He said, okay, well, Khenpo Rinpoche will be here in a few minutes. So I hope that he was going to be translating, Venerable Steve. I hope that you have already, gotten settled in, before the Rinpoche arrives. I hope you have already said some motivational prayers, in your own mind. I hope that you have done your prostrations to get in the right mindset, right? It's really, really good advice. I hadn't thought about that, to be honest. Doing the prostrations and taking some time. So logging in, 10 or 15 minutes ahead of time, whatever. And then, of course, and this, I admit I'm not that good about, but, you have to listen as though you are in person, right? Listening as though you're in person. You're not cooking, you're not eating, you're not, like you're talking to your dog at the same time. You really have to pretend that, you're absolutely right there. right? Okay. So that's the online respect. And then another, good thing to keep in mind is what do we do with our Dharma materials, right? So I know many of you know this already, but this is so important. And we have, so much in the way of Dharma materials now, whether it's books or pamphlets or things that we've printed out or whatever it is, right? Anything that has the Buddhist Buddha contact Buddhist content then would be considered Dharma materials, right? So what do we need to do with it then? Because this is a sacred material. Well, this would be even this book here, example, a book. We need to keep it off the floor, right? So if you come to a class, then you have to hold it. Ideally, it's above either your knee, the height of your knees, right? So like on a table, as high as you can, let's put it that way, right? You want to make it put things, out of the way, keep them, making sure that people can't step over them. And, if you're in a crowded teaching with lots of people, this can be a little bit challenging. So you have to keep everything in your lap and hold on to it, right? But if you're at home, also, if you've got Dharma books and things, you want to keep them, let's say you've got a bookshelf, right? You want to keep your Dharma books higher up and maybe put the secular stuff, the cookbooks and all that on the bottom, lower. Licking your finger and turning the pages of a book is considered not so good. And then how do you dispose of written Dharma materials? This is the real question. So ideally, in the old days, I guess, if you can burn them, if you've got a fireplace, access to a fireplace, you can burn them, then that would be ideal. The main point is not to put them in the trash, with ordinary trash. We had asked Lama Zopa Rinpoche many years ago when I was at Guya Samaja Center in Virginia, when recycling was probably, shredders were just coming around, whether or not that was an option because we didn't have a fireplace. And we were told that is an acceptable way to dispose of printed material. And so we would, keep it all together separately. And then whenever we had a chance, we would recycle or shred if we couldn't burn it. And if you are burning Dharma texts, the advice from Lama Zopa Rinpoche is to recite a prayer or a mantra, such as Om Ah Hum. And then thinking that as you recite it, as you burn, maybe even as you shred, then all of the letters of the texts are absorbed into the mantra and then into your mind stream. If you have photos or images, then the suggestion that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gives is that you, instead of burning or recycling in any way, that you can take them and put them outside in nature, like in a tree, a cavity in a tree or something like that. Some kind of high, clean place. So just not on the ground. That's the bottom line, not on the ground. Okay. So then we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk also about the food offering prayer, and I'm going to talk about some of the other actions that we take during the day and how to make those into Dharma actions. And then finally, how to, talking about sleeping and dreaming, sleep and dream yoga, talk a little bit about that. Okay? And we have to end exactly on time today, or maybe even a tiny bit earlier, because Venerable Trudala has to leave. Okay, so food offering prayers. Is anybody doing food offering prayers? No, this may be new to some people. Okay, good. So food offering prayers. So here the idea is that by every time that we, eat or drink, then that's an opportunity to offer the food, the liquid substance, whatever it is, right? To offer this to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as a way of practicing generosity, right? As a way of accumulating merit, accumulating virtue. So the idea is to not eat out of sense pleasure, out of desire for yummy, yummy, yumminess, but instead as a means to serve the Dharma through the energy, through the sustenance that we obtain from the food, right? And so there's a beautiful verse that says, "Seeing this food as medicine, we eat it without attachment or aversion, not to become fat, not out of pride, not to look strong, only to sustain the body." So if you're in a group setting, like if you go on a retreat or something, or I guess even if you're here, if we're eating together, if they're ordained Sangha, like so if we're all lining up, then the ordained Sangha, so the monks and nuns are supposed to eat first, sort of in order of seniority. So Geshe would always wait for Geshe Dargay, to go first, and then it would be, whoever else is, eating. So I'm just mentioning that because sometimes it comes up, like people were standing around looking, or you might not know, right? So I'm just telling you that's the etiquette. Okay. And then there are prayers that we can say before we actually, eat. And so we've been talking about different offering practices. We talked about offering lights and water bowls, in the last class. So with any offering, you're going to try to first imagine all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. You try to imagine all of the holy objects throughout the world, right? Because you're making this offering to as many of them as possible, right? And so, there's always these anecdotes about how Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who passed away a few years ago, how Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he would be offering food to all of these holy objects and throughout the world. But, based on his vast experience and his, incredible, incredibleness, it would take him, like 5 hours just to bless the food before he actually ate the food. And that's because, he could recollect, I think in detail on all of these specific objects. Like he was seeing them. He was, he'd visited them. And so it was that direct experience that he was bringing to mind as he did the offering, right? So likewise for us, maybe we haven't traveled as extensively and we don't have that power of mind, of course. But we can start with making the offerings to the holy objects on our altar, right? Whatever you have at home. So you think that you're making this beautiful offering to the Buddha on your altar. And then you can think of all of the holy objects here at Donakumpanling, right? Because that's in your direct experience. And so you're going through and you're making the offering to each and every one of the holy beings who are here, right? And maybe you have visited different places. Maybe you've gone on pilgrimage or you've been to some of the temples and retreat centers here in the United States or abroad. And so, or if you haven't, maybe you've even seen photos, right? So the same thing, whatever is within your experience, then you think that you're making the offerings to those sacred objects, okay? And as we do so, then we think that our offering is received, right? That the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas receive that delicious hamburger and French fries, and that they're extremely happy, right? So we're making this offering of food to the numberless, all of the, not just the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but to all the hell beings, all of the hungry ghosts, all the animals, the humans, gods, goddesses, and demigods, etc. And again, thinking that they're fully satisfied and that they've generated the complete path to enlightenment, in their minds. And so every one of them becomes enlightened in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay. Um, and so as we're eating, then we can dedicate every spoonful of food, every mouthful of drink to all sentient beings, including the 21,000 beings living in our bodies. So that's a really a beautiful practice too, right? Really slows you down too. So first, we've started thinking about all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the sentient beings outside of us, and now we're bringing our attention inside and thinking of all the sentient beings that are living within us. Thinking of all sentient beings in our gut, right? All the important gut care. We talk about that a lot these days. And so that's a way to make a connection with these other sentient beings. And think that, in your future, then these could be your students, right? You can teach them the Dharma. And they're being, actually, when you think about it, they're being exposed to the Dharma, even now, right? Because they're within you. And so if you're practicing the Dharma now, then indirectly, they're getting some karmic potential, perhaps. I don't know how. Anyway, so much more so when they're sentient beings per se, right? So the point here is that you're doing this practice of mindful eating with a positive motivation, and so you're creating the causes for enlightenment in the future. Okay. So why don't we we'll go through the actual prayer, and what we have here are these. I think did everyone get these? I'm using the candies that you brought. Yeah. Okay. There, here. Everyone get one. All right, so this is our beautiful offering. And then we have the prayer, it's food offering prayer, food offering practice. All right, let's see. That would be on page. This is a great publication by, again, by FPMT, compiled by or taught by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because it includes the practices associated or according to the Hinayana tradition, the Mahayana Sutra tradition, and the Tantric tradition. So really cool. And then today we're just going to focus on the Mahayana Sutra tradition. We're going to do the general food offering prayers on page 15. There's also, explanation of how to do a more extensive food offering practice, which is including the visualizations. And we talked a little bit about this, all the different offering objects, right? The holy objects. Just went through that very quickly. So let's just try the general food offering prayers. Again, this is something that, ideally you can print out the prayer and put it on your refrigerator and try to memorize these. Memorize at least one of them. Okay, so we're holding our offering, right, in our mind or physically here. And we can say Om Ahum, Om Ahum, Om Ahum. And thinking that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are with us. Okay, so offering to the Guru as a triple gem. Lama, Sangye, English. The Guru is Buddha. The Guru is Dharma. The Guru is Sangha also. The Guru is the creator of all happiness. To all Gurus, I make this offering. Oh, you just have to hear this in Tibetan once, okay? Not that I'm Tibetan, but if you're in You just have to hear it, okay? Lama Sangye Lama Tru Dejin Lama Gedun Te Kungye Jepo Lama Te Lama Namla Tripar Boom. Okay, then we go on. Offering prayer to, offering a request to the three jewels. May we and those around us in all future lives never be separated from the three jewels, continuously make offerings to the three jewels, and receive the inspiration of the three jewels. To the Supreme Teacher, to the Supreme Teacher, the precious Buddha, to the Supreme Refuge, the precious Buddha Dharma, to the Supreme Guides, the precious Sangha, to the Triple Gem, the objects of refuge, I make offering. All right, so this is the prayer that you'll hear at most occasions. Like if you're here for lunch at Donakumbaling, this is the one that the monks will say. Geshe Darge will say. Dumba Lame Sangye Rinpoche, Kyupa Lame Damtru Rinpoche, Drempa Lame Gedun Rinpoche, Kyamne Kuntrok Sumla Tripa. All right.
Is the actual translation of Rinpoche precious?
Oftentimes it is. Yeah, it can be precious. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then that's it. Scroll through to see if there was anything. Oh, here's the after lunch. We can do that later. Okay, so we're done. We can close that prayer, I think, at this point. Or putting it on the side would be all right. And going back here. All right, so now you can actually eat your candy. If you feel like it, you can eat it. And think, again, we're thinking that as we partake of this delicious candy, that we're feeding, the 21,000 living beings in our bodies, and that they're so happy, and we're creating the causes for enlightenment, and that they too will eventually be enlightened. So eating without craving more yummy, delicious orange candies, these are very good. Just enjoying it, thinking, I'm eating this as medicine, right? To be strong so that I can continue to practice the Dharma. All right. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we say after eating? So I think that it's again a good opportunity to think with gratitude of how fortunate we are to be able to have received, this wonderful nourishment when so many living beings do not have that opportunity. And, it's a chance to resolve to use our ability to acquire such nourishment to put it to good use, right? I mean, because we're using many natural resources in order to grow the food that we need, to obtain the water and that we need, especially the coffee. And so, let's not allow that to go to waste, right? We're going to put it to good use. So don't waste food. Then there's also, this is more apparently in the Hinayana tradition, there's a mantra that you can offer to, if there's any leftover food, there's a mantra that you can say, or you can save like a tiny little bit of food to offer it to all of the hungry ghosts. And so it's Om Ushishta, Ukshita, I can't even pronounce it. Om Ukshita Pandi A Shri Be Swaha. Om Ukshita Pandi Ashri Be Swaha. So that's obviously not one that I normally do, but it's in the food offering prayer pamphlet and there somewhere. So it might be something that it's certainly good to do. So one other tip is let's say you're eating leftovers. Anybody ever eat leftovers? I'm a big consumer of leftovers. So since it's leftover food, then you don't want to bless it, right? Because it's leftovers. You only want to offer the best, brightest, cleanest food, right? So if it's leftovers, don't bless the leftovers. Or even if you have a cup that you had used before, right? So it's not crystal clear, pure, clean, right? Because you drank from it and now maybe you refilled the cup, you put a little more tea in it. So you're not gonna, bless the tea because it's in a used cup, a dirty cup. Right? So instead you would take a clean cup and do that. Okay. Anything about that before we move on? Food offering, everyone comfortable with that? Beautiful practice, very easy. I mean, we're eating and drinking constantly throughout the day.
Of those that we went through, do typically you do all of them or?
If you want to choose just one,
Mhm.
choose the third one.
Third one.
Yeah.
And is this the pamphlet that you guys have on your site that we were looking at? I think
Do we have it somewhere?
yeah, I think there is one that has a lot of this, and I'm just not sure. I'm just curious if it was the same one.
You saw it like printed out at
Yeah, so
somewhere
I
here?
saw on the site.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
When you say on the site, you mean?
Yeah, I mean.
On the
Yeah,
website?
Yes, yeah, the site, they have different materials and one of them's like a pamphlet with like different prayers and different. Just kind of all the standard stuff.
And when you said the third one, can you remind me what?
The third one is the actually I have it on in the slide deck too. Yeah, hang on. I think I printed them out.
Buddha Dharma and Sangha.
Yeah. Hey, come here. Hang on. It's on slide. On one of these slides.
I got it up.
Thank you.
Hang on. Wait. I've also okay, hang on. If you go to slide 33, I actually included these in the slide deck, which if you'd like to get a copy of this, you just send me an email. So here, this was the first one, Lama Sangye Lama tradition. The first one, the second one is slide 34, right? And then slide 35 is this last one, what I was referring to as the third one. To the Supreme Teacher, the Precious Buddha, to the Supreme Refuge, the Precious Dharma, to the Supreme Guides, the Precious Sangha, to the Triple Gem, the Objects of Refuge, I make offering. So it's really easy if you don't want to memorize like all the exact words. Like the basic meaning is that you're making offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. To the Triple Gem, I'm making, I make offerings. So it's easy, right? So easy. I don't have to make this more complicated than it is. And then if you could please go to slide number 31. So in that was it in the same publication? Anyway, they're mantras for blessing meat. So if you are partaking of meat, then you could say some, or if not all of these. The first is the Medicine Buddha mantra. So the pronunciation is the second one, Tayata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Ranza Samungate Soha or Soha. Okay. And then you could say the Mitrukpa mantra, which is a little bit longer. Namo Ratna Trayaya Om Komkani Komkani Rochani Rochani Trotani Trotani Trasani Trasani Pratihana Pratihana Sava Karma Param Param Ni Me Sarva Sapa Nansa Swaha. And then Milaripas Om Guru Hasavadra Sava Siddhi Palahum. And then the actual blessing the meat. Om Bira Ke Tarahum. Om Bira Ke Tarahum. Right? You can say that 7 times. So if you're eating meat, then you have to do all this extra work.
What is the significance of the reciting the medicine Buddha mantra for eating meat? Is that to cover the death of the animal? Because how?
I think that for all of them, the idea is that, you know, you're helping purify the negative karma, you know, associated with on the animals continuum, but that also that, you know, maybe you're purifying yourself of the desire that's associated, the attachment associated with consuming meat. I don't know. But so I think it's purification for the self and for the animal that's being consumed.
And so you consider you all, was it 4 of them, 5?
Medicine Buddha, Mitrukpa, Milarepa, and the blessing the meat one. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that'll be 4. Yeah. Okay. So then if we go to slide 28, there's a mantra for increasing the effect of our virtuous activities throughout the day. So this is one of the mantras that you could say in the morning, you know, when you do the daily meditation practice that we just did right earlier on. You can also include this increasing effect mantra even before you actually say the prayer, in fact. So it's Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajavahum Om Samara Samara Bhimana Skara Mahajavahum. Okay, so you can say that 7 times. Do you want to try that? Do you want to say that together? Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajavahum Om Samara Samara Bhimana Skara Mahajavahum. All right. So for those of you who have done like the Nune retreat, then this might seem this you'll remember this because we did this
So many times.
many times, right? Got that one down. And then the mala for blessing your mala blessing mantra. The mala blessing mantra, because you know you're going to be saying many mantras, so you can bless your mala. So it's Om Rutsira Mani Pravartaye Om Rutsira Mani Pravartayahum. Right? Om Rutsira Mani Pravartayahum. So you say it 7 times and then you can blow on your mala. So you just blow. Then your mala is good to go. And then the mantra for blessing the feet, or in contemporary times now we talk about blessing the tires on your car, wheels on your bicycle, anything that might cause animals to, more likely, you know, insects to be crushed unintentionally, right? So you are going to say this mantra, and then you can blow on the soles of your feet or the tires of the car. Om Kritsa Ragana Om Shri Swaha. Om Kritsa Ragana Om Shri Swaha. Shri. Om Shri Swaha. Om Kritsa Ragana Om Shri Swaha. Okay, so that's a lot of mantras. A lot of mantras. Oops. So, let's see, is there anything else on this? The mantra that increases the merit of the day increases it 100,000 times fold. The mala, that blessing mantra, 1,000,000 times stronger. Wow, that's a big difference. And then blessing the soles of the feet, right? Recite it 7 times, blow on the soles of the feet or vehicles, so that if they die, they will be reborn in the heaven 33. They'll be reborn as a god. All right. So, so there are many, many other actions that we do during the day. Right? So what are your thoughts in terms of how we can associate, a virtuous thought with some of these actions? So for example, let's say speaking, right? We're about to utter some words to communicate a thought to somebody. What's something that you can think of, mindfully, before you open your mouth and say something?
Just think of the saying of, is it true? Is it beneficial? And will it harm?
Yeah. Is it true? Is it beneficial? Will it cause harm?
And then is it necessary?
Oh, there you go. Is it necessary? Right. That's good too. Sure.
That's my biggest hang up.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I just saying something to vent, for making myself feel better, or am I really communicating something meaningful? Yeah. Why am I saying this? What about the action of sitting down? How can you turn that into a dharmic act?
I understand that obviously the mindfulness of sitting, right? Sitting, standing, walking, laying down.
Mm-hmm.
But also I've heard many gurus recommend that you always say a prayer the same way for the animals that are going to be crushed by your feet or tires, but you always hope that you're not going to injure any insects or unseen animals when you sit. You try to sit in places where they're less likely to be, not on grass, not on the ground or on a stone, and just be mindful of where you sit and how gently you sit, not affecting other beings.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. Anything else? Anybody else have some thoughts on that one for sitting?
I think maybe the act of sitting can also be used as a trigger to remind yourself of the Buddha field and of being compassionate or whatever
Oh,
quality it's want to remind yourself of.
yeah. That's a good one too. Mm-hmm. So even if you're, getting into your car and sitting down, right? Or if you're walking into your office and you're sitting down, all of those are still reminders. There's still actions that we can use to remind ourselves to act in a way that's in accordance with the Dharma. Right? Yeah. What about standing? We're not crushing any animals. We're getting up. What kind of dharmic thoughts could be associated with the act of standing?
Mindfulness of the body in general.
Mm-hmm.
sensations in the body when standing, pressure of the feet against the ground.
Hmm. Hmm.
Often standing is the beginning of an action. I'm gonna go walk, go
Okay.
get something for somebody. So I guess you have to remind yourself, is it what I'm about to do, is it gonna be meritorious to myself and to others?
Okay, so it's like a transitional act. Hmm, okay, that's good. Yeah. Right. Setting the intention. And then walking itself, other than just the mindfulness of the act itself is important because you're using it as a way to remain and focused on the present moment. Is there anything else that you can think? I'm walking.
I'm walking, for just for be in nature and just enjoy the act of walking. I often dedicate it to those that I know that don't have the ability to do that activity.
Oh, yeah.
I think getting into your, being in your body more,
Mhm.
as opposed to when you're sitting and you're, working for 9 hours, and you're like a floating head. When you walk, all of a sudden, all the parts of your body come alive.
Integrated.
Yeah, and then you
Okay.
feel integrated again, yeah.
Okay, put the head back on top of the body. Okay, and then maybe also like,
Maybe walking toward a better practice.
yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is that Louisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you're directing your steps towards enlightenment, right? I'm walking the path to enlightenment, taking 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Yeah.
Is walking meditation as common in Mahayana practice as in Theravada? Because in Theravada, it's like equal to sitting meditation. It's like sitting meditation, walking meditation, sitting meditation, walking meditation, always.
Yeah,
Now that
I
I've
would
never
assume.
been asked to do walking meditation by a Mahayanist.
maybe prostrating. I don't know.
Is that the
That's
whole-
not really true, because what about circumambulating?
Right?
So,
But yeah,
but yeah, you're
that's
right,
a
it's different.
dedication, right? As opposed to a
Mindfulness. right.
yeah. I mean,
Some Zen practices do. walk.
yes, yeah.
That's
I'm
not-
familiar with that. Yeah, but I mean the physical sensation, the act of
Sure.
premeditating the step, the act of lifting the foot, the act of putting it down. Just I know it's redundant with the mindfulness of it, but that's that walking meditation. That's kind of what it focuses on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a form of mind training. Okay.
Anila,
Yeah.
I just have a question, and you don't have to answer it now. If I know Chappelle's on a time limit too. So, but I have a friend who the day before yesterday was distraught. A raccoon came out in front of their car, and obviously they're moving, and the animal was killed, and so they're distressed about this. And I'm just wondering, post event, if there's some prayer or some blessing for the animal and for the tires that could be done that might help in a situation like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Medicine Buddha would be the most beneficial practice.
Okay.
The Medicine Buddha mantra that we just said.
Thank you.
Yeah, Medicine Buddha mantra. You can even like print it out and put it in the car.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Because it's not just like the roadkill per se, but also even the bugs on the windshield.
Sure.
So many bugs get killed as we drive along. That's terrible. So you
Especially
can,
down the mouth.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Medicine Buddha mantra is good.
FPNT has another great pamphlet on the mantras for the benefit of animals, for the health of animals. A couple different titles that are similar, but
Okay.
it she wanted to look deeper into that. They're like 5 pages long and centered on compassion for both living and animals in danger and in pain and having passed away.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Maybe we can talk about that in the next class. I'll have to get the pamphlets.
They're great.
Great. I'll do that. What about going through a door? What can you think when you're going through a door? Again, that idea of a transition.
Bodhisattva vows, right? Entering the gateway of the Dharma.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Recollecting your vows, whatever vows you may have taken, or thinking if I haven't taken vows, maybe I am opening the door so that I will create the causes so that I can take the vows. Sure. Door to liberation, right? So then, likewise, I'll just go through the other 3 quickly. But when we're bathing is a very full body experience, right? And so, you can think that you're being purified of all negativities. May my body become pure and clean so that I can be even better suited to practice the Dharma. And then likewise, dressing. So if you've, taken like a highest yoga tantra empowerment, or even not just highest yoga tantra, but Kriya tantra. Right. So if you're thinking of yourself as a deity, then the bathing, the dressing you're offering, the divine garments, and then perfumes and the bathing water, all that good stuff, right? And then in the last class, we talked about cleaning, right? Cleaning. So when we're cleaning our house, when we're vacuuming, sweeping, dusting, all of that's so important. Mopping the floor. Every time, we're moving our hand to engage in that practice, like sweep, 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 polishing, cleaning, all of that. You can think that I'm removing the stains, right? Removing the stains of my negative karma. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yeah. So that's easy practice, something that we can absolutely do all the time. It makes our cleaning activities not just a chore, but a virtuous activity, right? Any other thoughts about that? Ordinary experience, turning it into Dharma experience?
I think one of the things that, when I go about, like, whether I'm driving a car or whatever it is that I'm about to do, you talked about briefly about resources. I try to be mindful of the fact that I'm utilizing resources that somebody else might have needed. So to make sure that I use these resources in a good way, not wasting.
Yeah,
the
I think that's very
opportunities.
important. Yeah. Right, because it's so easy to just take everything for granted and not realize how yeah. Right, and then how we're creating, waste and garbage and all that stuff just from the action of the act of living. It's just normal.
I
Yeah.
think it's almost impossible to think about checking your ego in every situation. It's like an constant onslaught. So that just doing that is like a lot, takes I think a lot of energy. If you go into a situation, especially like a work situation or something like that, to check your ego is like, I try to do that like pretty much constantly.
Right. And so I think that's absolutely, the heart of, I think, what we're trying to talk about, actually. So I'm glad you said that. So we're talking about how different physical actions, can be used as a reminder to check your ego. Yeah, just like you're saying, and being able to devote that to overcoming, those negative tendencies. Absolutely. Very well said. Glad you said that. Okay, so then just to wrap up really quickly here. So sleeping and dreaming. So I'll be really honest, this is a topic that I do not know very much about. so I have no right to be talking about it. But so I'm just sharing what little I know, hoping that if you are interested in this subject, or maybe you've already studied it or you're practicing it, that you will find it interesting, and that you can go and I'll give you a couple of resources, references, and then you can go on and do this. And maybe, yeah. So we may not finish the whole thing, but that's okay. Just get started here. So the idea is that we can use our sleep as a method for carrying out our Dharma practice. And so it's kind of interesting because, you know, when we think of us from a Western perspective, right, we're always told that sleeping a good, 7 to 9 hours every night, getting a deep sleep is so important and nourishing for restorative for our health and our mental health, and, prevents Alzheimer's and all that good stuff. And so, we're told not to go on our screens, no screen time an hour before you go to sleep, right? Don't scroll on the phone, don't watch no TV, right? And so from a Western perspective, a deep sleep is gold, right? And we never get it, right? Nobody gets a good 7 to 9 hours of sleep, right? Especially as we get older, it's harder to sleep. But from a Tibetan perspective, then it's the opposite. So the goal is to sleep very lightly. A light sleep is recommended, and not, as little sleep as possible, because you're trying to use the sleep state almost consciously, right? You're using it for Dharma purposes. So that means you can't be, in the deep sleep, because that's kind of useless, right? You're just like shut down, right? And instead, in this Tibetan tradition, what we're trying to do is to have lucid dreams, right? So it's a mind where you're actually directing. You're aware. What I'm trying to say is you're aware that you're dreaming, and that you can even then, change the content of the dream, of the story, as it unfolds. Okay, so very cool, very cool. But it's not like this woohoo, like kind of thing, right? This is very practical. And so when we talk about seeing our ordinary experience, our waking life, as a dream, right? This is the analogy. It's as a dream. So we can also use a different term, which we've also heard very, very often from different teachers, which is to say that, we experience our daily life as an illusion, that everything that we experience is an illusion, right? So we can say it's as a dream, as an illusion. What it really comes down to is that things lack inherent existence, right? This all comes back to emptiness, so lacking inherent existence. Whether you want to call it a dream or it's like an illusion, right? All comes down to the same thing. So the main point here is that we need to first be able to relate to our ordinary daily experience as a dream, right? Being able to see things lacking inherent existence, seeing their emptiness, before we'll be able to experience sleep, right? As the sleep, dream state as such. Okay. So it has to be done in that order, right? So we're starting with our ordinary experience, or waking experience, seeing that as a dream, as dreamlike, and then being able to carry over that energy and carry over that mind training, so that when we go to sleep, and we're sleeping so lightly and only like a couple hours, we're going to be able to, analyze and be aware. Our dreams will be we'll be aware that we're dreaming, right? I mean, most of the time when you're dreaming, you're just like experiencing the dream, right? It's rare that you'll say, oh, maybe you start to come out and you're like, oh, it's okay. Thank God. It was just a dream, right? Or it's such a beautiful dream. But most of the time, like you're right in it, right? Here we're talking about being able to like skim. Some of you are like, oh, it's a dream. That person's coming at me with the big knife, the meat cleaver, but I know it's a dream, right? And I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to turn that person, or from a mean, hairy, ugly guy into this beautiful, divine, princess offering me garlands of flowers or whatever, right? Okay. I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. I think I'm kind of cold. I'm cold and I had too much coffee. Bad combination. Okay, so anyway, just a fascinating topic. I'm just going to talk about the different kinds of dreams. And here I am quoting from this fantastic book. This is by the Bun master, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, The Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, Practices for Awakening. This is the second edition of his book. He actually did a short interview, a podcast, the Wisdom publications, they do a podcast series. So he had done an interview about his books. And that's how I found out about the book. Also, I've been taking a class with Lama Karma Jnana, who is one of Lama Alan Wallace's teachers. And this Lama Karma Jnana is giving a series of classes on dream yoga. So that's been very interesting. Oh, it's 11:20. Oh my God.
Good luck, Chappelle.
I'm coming back. I'm just running the phone.
All right, so we'll just talk about the kinds of dreams and then we'll continue the rest of the discussion in the next class, the last class. Okay, so there are 3 kinds of dreams. So the first is the ordinary samsaric dreams, the ones that we normally have. And so by practicing dream yoga, then we'll be able to have clearer dreams. These ordinary dreams, right? They will become clearer. We'll be able to remember them better. The dreams will become more detailed. So that's the starting point. So taking your ordinary dream, applying these dream yoga techniques, and then being able to improve the ordinary samsaric dreams. Okay. And so I'm just going to talk about the different kinds, but in his book, he also talks about the actual practice for transforming the dreams. He also talks about what happens if you don't dream, right? If you don't have any dreams, so there are techniques for encouraging the dream state. And some people are really good about having lots of dreams and remembering their dreams, very, very clearly. I'm not one of them, right? But that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. So the first is the ordinary samsaric dreams. The second is dreams of clarity. And so the second type of dream is one in which, like I said before, the dreamer, we ourselves are more aware that we are dreaming. Okay. And our dreams become more stable. And so we're not just blown around here and there by, these karmic tendencies, but rather our dreams are becoming more stable. And they're less about, our personal karma ripening and more about what he calls transpersonal knowledge being received or found by the dreamer, as opposed to these samsaric ordinary dreams, in which meaning is projected, right? That's our karma ripening. Its meaning is projected by the dreamer into the dream experience, right? So it's karma ripening as a dream. Okay, so instead he's referring to this transpersonal knowledge. He talks a little bit about how that's similar to other spiritual traditions, other religions, where there's some sense of maybe like a cultural or a meaning that transcends, the individual, the shared system of belief, perhaps. But so far he hasn't gone into it very much. Okay, so then the next kind of dream is, there we go, ta-da, clear light dreams. So eventually we want to get to the point where we're having clear light dreams. And so this is associated with when we can channel our energies into the central channel, and we'll talk about that more in the next class. But the point is that the dreamer is able to remain in this primordial clear light awareness of the mind, even during the dream state. right? So you're going beyond, duality. It's a non-dual state in which we just abide in this lucid awareness. Right? So you can see how, that being able to meditate, on calm abiding, how your Shine training will be so important, because if you have that as a foundation, then again, you're trying to rest in that state, in the sleep state, right? Okay, so so there's a cool quote on the bottom of page 52, and I guess we'll wrap up there. Oh yeah, so this is again, it's like what he says in terms of the three types of dreams. So he said, samsaric dreams arise from the individual's karmic traces and emotions, and all content of the dream is formed by those traces and emotions. The second type, the dream of clarity, includes more objective knowledge, which arises from transpersonal karmic traces. Well, that makes more sense. Transpersonal karmic traces, maybe more like collective karma. And is available to the consciousness when it is not entangled in personal karmic traces. The consciousness is then not bound by space, by time, or personal history, and the dreamer can meet with beings, receive teachings, and find information helpful to others as well as to themselves. And then the third kind, the clear light dream, is not defined by the content of the dream. It is a clear light dream because there is no subjective dreamer or dream ego. There is no self and relationship with the dream content. Although a dream arises, it is an activity of the mind that does not disturb the practitioner's stability in clear light. So cool. Okay, so we will do the dedication prayers. Dedication prayers then are on page. Oh, come here. Got some dedication prayers in there somewhere.
Yeah, which ones do you want to do on which slide?
Should be at the very, very bottom. May this precious supreme bodhicitta. We keep going. Down, down, down.
That's the references?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. There you go.
Well, let me share it first.
All right. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzing Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends, so that your holy deeds may bless the nature of fortunate disciples, and that the Lord of 10 powers teachings and realizations spread. You shine the lamp of logic for intelligent minds, spiritual friend who shows the way, to you we pray. Thank you very much. And next week is the last class, the fifth and last session in this series.
Thank you, Anila.
Bye.